Hello, welcome to NC Exclusive. I'm Benga Borowa. Today we have a very special guest joining us on the show today. Her name is Excellency Hilda Suka Mafudze. She's the African Union Ambassador to the United States of America since October 2020. She was born in Zimbabwe, and Ambassador Suka Mafudze is a seasoned diplomat and political expert with over 2 decades of professional experience in African affairs. Prior to her current appointment, she served as the ambassador of the Republic of Zimbabwe in various countries, including Sudan, South Sudan, and Malawi. She's an accomplished leader and specializes in mediation, post-conflict reconstruction, human rights, and humanitarian activities. Her academic credentials include degrees and diplomas in sociology and gender development, as well as a Master of Arts degree in International Relations and World Order from the University of Leicester in England. Our guest today is Excellency Ambassador Hilda Suka Mafudze, the African Union Ambassador to the United States of America. Thank you very much for your time, Madam Ambassador, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much for hosting me. I really appreciate it.
Now, to start, I conducted a little bit of research on you and your office. The primary functions of your office are to develop and promote relations with the U.S. administration, undertake resource mobilization, and consolidate constructive and productive institutional relationships between the African Union and Africans in the diaspora, the Bretton Woods institutions, and other stakeholders. Given that this is quite a broad mandate, what unique role does your office play in strengthening African ties in the United States, and what specific value do you bring to your U.S. stakeholders that is different from what a country's embassy in D.C. would normally bring?
Yes, the good thing is with this broad mandate, it makes things easy, because all our countries from the continent, the 55 member states, are represented here in the USA. And as my mandate is to increase this relationship that has always been there between the US and the African Union, but to increase the relationship, to make a difference. And I would say Africa is at a level at the moment where we are saying, this is the time to do business with Africa. And as we communicate with the Bretton Woods, and as we communicate with the academics, we communicate with the leadership here in the USA, is to rally and run with our issue of the Agenda 2063. And at the moment, top on the agenda is the African Continental Free Trade Area. I try to bring everyone together in terms of the leadership that we have here, who are the ambassadors of the 55 member states, to say this is what we should push forward. And they are very excited, and we dearly work together. I think I've responded to your question the way you wanted.
Okay, now, do you think there's been a difference between when individual countries engage bilaterally with the United States and when they decide to go through the African Union and speak with one voice?
This is where we are working so hard around. But the good thing and the positive thing that I mention at the moment is that you cannot have, well, I'll give an example. When a dog gives birth, all its children will not open their eyes on the same day.
Very true.
Yes, but the mother will keep on, nurturing to make a difference, to say this is where we are. Yes, there can be some areas where we feel this is how we should move. And don't forget, in the first instance, those same embassies came here on the basis of bilateral relations. And here as African Union, we are saying, let's speak with one voice. Of course, we have to nurture that. We have to be working with the embassies. And I will tell you, on the positive, there's rallying behind African Union.
But it's Madam Ambassador, it's quite difficult to get 55 member states to speak with one voice. How have you been able to navigate this diplomatic waters?
I have meetings that I hold in my mission every month. And usually we have all the numbers of the ambassadors coming to, we speak with one voice, let me put it that way. That is happening, I must say, in my office when we do these meetings, the monthly meetings. Besides the monthly meetings, we have also the CDC putting on the table once every month also to tell us what is happening on the COVID issues on the continent. So all of them rally, all the issues that are happening in African Union, on the continent, Addis Ababa, I take those issues and share with these ambassadors. And of course, as I said earlier, these embassies have come here on the bilateral basis, but they are inclining towards this working together. And some of them are completely there, I must say.
Now, talking about united voice and speaking with one voice, right now, Africa seems to be the focus of the world in the current pandemic that we're going through since the discovery of the Omicron strain of the COVID-19 virus. Africa has only vaccinated 11% of its population, away from the African Union's projected 60% by the end of this year. What is responsible for the low vaccination drive in Africa? Is it vaccine hesitancy amongst the people, or we just don't have the power and the technology to produce our own vaccines and procure more vaccines because of an equitable distribution of vaccines in the world?
I'll take your last point where you're talking of the inequitable vaccination distribution. This is what we have suffered as Africa. And as you know, it's very, very important to be self-sustained. And we are saying we should stand and fight to develop, to come up with our own vaccines. We have quite a bigger population, 1.3 to 1.6 billion people. We need to have our own warehouse where we have our own vaccines. But see, this is a challenge that has bedeviled us in terms of not getting the vaccines by the time that we want. I heard you saying 11%, which is actually much higher than the vaccines people who have been vaccinated on the continent. And I would say it has been a challenge. And we have been rallying. Like I'm here, and let me take also this opportunity to thank the Biden-Harris administration. We have also donated some vaccines, and we are promising to donate more vaccines on the African continent. And say, this is the time. We have to be in solidarity. This is a challenge that is on our planet, Earth planet. You cannot wish Africa away. Africa is there to stay.
Yes.
And look at these challenges that we have. Africa is here to stay, and not only to stay, but this is a continent that has a vast majority of younger people who are bubbling with knowledge, innovation, you name it. And Africa is the next frontier. And there is no way decisions can be made at the center of the decision-making of the world without the Africa's involvement. And let's begin there with the vaccines and make this difference. Let's come together in solidarity, ensure Africa is not stigmatized. Africa is moving forward. And I will go back and say, there's no reason to stigmatize Africa on the basis of telling the world the situation that what they have found, the scientists have found. It's not called for.
Exactly. And that brings me to my next question, Madam Ambassador. Like you rightly said, the world needs to recognize Africa's place in the world. And Africa has a lot of experience and expertise in pandemic preparedness because of our experience with Ebola and other diseases. The South African Institute of Communicable Diseases did right by first alerting the world to this new strain of coronavirus, the Omicron. The Secretary General of the United Nations has condemned the the travel ban inflicted on member states of the African Union. Just recently, I spoke to the President of the United Nations General Assembly. He did condemn this travel apartheid. Yesterday, the African Union issued a statement calling on countries to rescind their travel ban on member states. And these things have implications. So why is Africa being treated like a pariah state for doing the right thing?
I would say it's mind-boggling at the moment to have Africa being treated that way. And just recently, I think you're aware that Secretary Blinken was on the continent. And he was talking of not treating Africa as a subject, but Africa as a player in the world's decisions. And I would say people get to respecting others when they know they have what it takes. But we are saying Africa is here on the 8th planet. And also Africa shouldn't be because that's where the base of Omicron has come from. It has been identified all over. And now we punish African scientists. We have come out to tell the world this is another situation that is coming into our lives. Let's be alert and work on that. And then we punish. This should be perpetrated to say all those who come up with discoveries should come out. I really applaud our scientists of the SADC region in coming up and talking about that. I would say it's no longer time to put out such notions to Africa. Africa is a player. Let's not forget 2030, 2050, it doubles its
population. Madam Ambassador, are you there? I believe we have some technical issues. We'll just wait for connection to be restored. So we've been speaking with Excellency, the Ambassador of the African Union to the United States of America, Hilda Suka Mafudze. We've talked about vaccine, unequal distribution of vaccines, her mandate, and U.S.-Africa relations. We do have a few more things to talk about before we conclude. I believe we have Madam Ambassador back. Hello. Hello, Madam Ambassador. Thank you very much. Yes. So I'll just let you complete the points you were making with regards to African scientists' achievements.
Yeah, that's an African scientist achievement. That should tell the world Africa is on a trajectory, a rising trajectory. And if you're having our scientists identifying that pandemic, the Omicron, to me, we have to learn to applaud, not to punish. And here we are, and we are saying, you cannot leave Africa behind. Africa is at a level where it's putting its house in order. Let's talk of, I told you of the African Continental Free Trade Area.
Yes.
What are we yearning to do? We're building one big market.
One big
of
market.
3 billion people. And what are we saying? We're saying we are at a level to go up.
Now, away from the coronavirus pandemic, we've witnessed a worrying trend recently in Africa. That is, we've seen quite a number of military coup d'etats in the last 18 months. This most definitely be troubling to the African Union because Africa is in the age of democracy. Now, are there sanctions? I mean, the African Union has imposed sanctions on some of those countries. They've removed them from the African Union. But does this serve as enough deterrent? And what can governments do to avoid this coup d'etats?
These coup d'etats, I'm telling you, have been really a challenge to the continent. They have come up, and as you may remember, before the COVID, Africa, in its past 10 years, from before the COVID time, Africa was rising. And the COVID came into being. Sometimes it's a challenge that happens in a country where they don't see the challenge, the bigger picture. And they think the government is not serving them well. Which government can say their economies were at a level or were going higher? Even in this first world, there was a challenge of the economies. And I would want to think those people who think about, let me go and do this coup to make a difference, are really not informed so well. But I'm saying we have to do a lot on our side. As African Union, we have been laying on the table the ways that we should take our direction as Africa. It gets me back to the speaking of with one voice. And when we speak one voice, we avoid some of these things. Yes.
And I'm happy that the African Union is for good governance, and you mentioned that some of the reasons why these things happen is because of bad governance. Oftentimes, when these things happen, when you have a member state that has altered its constitution 3 times, has changed it to allow him to run in office in perpetuity, the African Union hardly comes out to condemn this people. They often use the word, it's internal affairs of the country. But when the military comes and removes these people from government, then the African Union is very quick to condemn that. Is it possible, or is it against the principles of diplomacy, to tell a government, a sitting government, that look, your people aren't happy? Could you do something about the level of governance in the country to avoid this sort of military coups?
That happens. That happens where African Union comes out and sit down with the government and say, this is the wrong thing to do. They do it. But there's this charter, yes, which allows the countries to stand on their own on the continent. And don't forget, we're at that level where we are, as I talked about at the earlier point where I said, we are gradually coming together. And some of these charters, at some point in time, will be able to change the constitutions and they make a difference in the charter of the African Union, where every country will follow what the African Union is saying. I get your point on the...
Yes, because a lot of observers in the past have said the African Union is an old boys club that protects only the interests of its members. So away from that, let's talk about the US-Africa relationship. The United States first established its diplomatic mission to the African Union in 2006. Why do you think, Madam Ambassador, it's important that the United States created this diplomatic position? You have a colleague that is based in Addis Ababa. And what did it signify for U.S. relationship with the African continent?
Okay, if I have to comment from the point where we are right now, remember the Biden-Harris administration is looking to work with Africa and they make a difference. Also, Secretary Blinken said it when he went to the continent. The time is now where they are strengthening more the relationship that they have. Opening an embassy says a lot. From my experience as an ambassador, if you see a country coming in to open an embassy, it's saying how strong you are getting.
Very true.
It's saying we want to work together. And don't forget, Africa is on a trajectory to make better. We have put a lot of tools in place to have other people who want to even invest say this is the right way to go. And if you are not investing in Africa today, tell me, where are you investing? So it's also is to work around the trade, is to work around also the human rights also, that's why they come up and open these embassies. And hence the reason we are here also, to strengthen these relations. They are also strengthening the relations on the ground in the Addis Ababa. And there's a lot that we are working together. And as I talked of the distribution of the vaccines, it has also made some of these countries to say, if you are not, we say, some of people say supping would be on the negative. To us, if you are not supping with Africa on the positive, then where is your country going to? What is it doing? If you don't invest in Africa today, where else are you investing? It's about interest. And they are there for their interest. And we are strengthening relationship.
I'm glad you mentioned that Africa is the next frontier. Africa has quite a huge diaspora in the United States. So when you're engaging with the diaspora, with the administrators and the government, what are some challenges to engaging successfully to implementing your program as the African Union ambassador to the United States?
I'm working with the diaspora strongly, and I'm so happy of what the achievements that we have put on the table. The diaspora is rallying behind the issues to do with Africa, the issues to do with Agenda 2063. We have already come up with a directory of the experts who are here in the US, and to allow actually our diasporan people to be able to support one another. And besides that, we do monthly meetings in what we call Who is Who African Diaspora. And we choose an item that we talk about, and we get the experts. And we are getting these experts amongst ourselves. I'm not having any challenges with the diaspora. I'm actually not getting to reach out as much as I could. And I was surprised that there are so many of our people in this country of the US. And I've touched of states, in the some I haven't touched on, but they're already inviting. Ambassador, come, we want to work with African Union, we want to work with you. And I have no challenges with the diaspora, but I would want to take this opportunity to actually let the diaspora know that we're looking to have them go and invest on the continent. I support them with the work that they're doing here, and I support them with the work they are doing and the which they are doing with the people on the continent. But at the same time, we're looking to grow our economies and have the diaspora invest on the continent. Watch this space that is happening. Very soon you'll hear the positivity of it. Hopefully, I like your optimism, Madam Ambassador. Now, talking about business opportunities and investment in the continent, the African Growth Opportunities Act, AGOA, which had served as the centerpiece of the U.S.-Africa commercial relationship for more than 2 decades, would expire on September the 30th, 2025. With 4 years left under the existing legislature, there is still time for beneficiary countries to achieve greater results under AGOA. Moreover, a renewal of AGOA for another 10 years will provide even more time to make national strategies as beneficial as possible while further deepening U.S.-African ties. Do you think African countries, because the ones that have taken advantage of AGOA have done really well, Kenya comes to the back of my mind, and a few other countries, are we using this existing legislature of the African Growth Opportunities Act? Are we maximizing it, or there's more to be done? We actually very recently had a very strong meeting, a very big meeting with USTRA here about this AGOA issue you're talking about. And I would say there is a lot of work that we're doing to synergize this AGOA with the African Continental Free Trade Area. Because there has been questions, how do we run with AGOA and how do we run with African
Exactly.
We are doing a lot to synergize these two. And I'm so optimistic this AGOA will be extended. And I'm very optimistic in to say other Africans are yearning to join this AGOA. Remember, AGOA is not a legislation that allows every country on the continent to join. But I'm saying in that process, and with the meetings that we've held recently, in that notion, the US has also realized, how can we have African Continental Free Trade Area embracing all the 55 member states and saying we run and they do work on the issues to do with trade. And when AGOA just limits to certain countries, a few countries, due to the human rights issues, due to so many issues around which they put on the table. But I'm optimistic that they're going to open that and allow for other countries to play, and to allow to make a difference in the synergy between the AGOA and the African Continental Free Trade Area. Because AGOA has been basically on the bilateral. As you are saying, African Kenya, yes, Kenya has made it, and we are very happy and we are very excited. And
but you would want a situation where AGOA takes care of Africa as one body, as one unit.
Yes, that's what we put on the table as the meeting. That's what we would want. Of course, we will hear what their legislation will say at the end of the day. But that's what we're looking at. And we are saying, we cannot choose out of your children. You can, if you're saying you are embracing Africa, in the end of the day, it's embracing the whole of Africa.
Exactly.
And it will run with all the countries. That's what we're looking at. And we've put that on the table. And we are yet to hear what's the answer around it. But we are optimistic. It's going to shape very well.
Finally, Madam Ambassador, before I let you go, you're a mother and you're also an astute diplomat, experienced diplomat that has worked at the highest level in multilateralism and diplomacy. What gives you hope for Africa's future as well as the future of US-Africa relations?
Can you rephrase, please? The question.
I said your mother, you're also an African. You've served in the highest levels of multilateralism, and you've represented your home country, Zimbabwe, in quite a number of countries. And then you're the current ambassador of the African Union to the United States of America. What gives you hope for the future, for Africa's future, as well as the future of the US-Africa relationship?
My hope is, I'm very optimistic, as I've said from the word go. I'm a very optimistic person, and I foresee Africa, as I'm talking of, it will be the next front, and Africa being at the level, Africa being at the level that it is, and that those who want to come and work with Africa. I foresee our relationship with the US getting much stronger, because we are just not looking at the trend. We are looking at academic, we are looking at health. There's a lot of work we are doing in the health area. As you know, of Africa CDC, there's a lot of work that we are doing with the US, and you see the difference that was made during the COVID time by the Africa CDC, where Africa CDC being asked by other countries to help them set the way they did in Africa to avoid more casualties. So I see the relationship strengthening further, and I see a footprint of the Africans, even coming from here, the US, going on the continent and implementing that expertise that they have. It's my wish also for them to think that way. But I foresee right now, as I work with the diaspora, that they are yearning to go on the continent and to use their expertise to help the continent grow. So I foresee positivity.
Thank you very much, Madam Ambassador. I'd like to say a very big thank you to you for joining us on NC Exclusive. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. And we also share your optimism of taking the steps that would lead to us seeing the Africa of our dreams. And we wish you all the best with your mandate.
I thank you dearly.